Okay, can you hear us now?
How about now?
Thank you for, let's see.
Not responding, that's not a good sign.
Okay, great, this is rebooting, maybe.
Hello, hello, testing, testing. Hopefully you've got more than just a pretty face.
No.
You still can't hear over there? Yes, they can hear us. Yay. Excellent. Okay.
All right.
I guess we needed to pray to the technology gods a bit more. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone. A few technical difficulties there on sound, but sounds like you can hear us now.
Yes, and I can hear us on a test system.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, take two.
Take two. One of our tips in relationships is called the do-over, so we're going to do the do-over tonight. So,
and a testament to our relationship work that we didn't visit with each other.
Like, what's happening?
All right.
So awesome. We know life is full. We really value your time, your energy, your attention, and so we thank you for being here tonight. We promise that we're going to share some really great information with you that you can use both tonight, immediately, and in the future. And we're also going to give you some information at the end. If you're really excited about communication and you want to dive in deeper, we hope to have you in our 3-week mini course. And of course, if you stay till the end, we're also going to give you a copy of our ebook. And we'll get to all of that and some other details, even tell you a little bit about us and why you should actually listen to us in regards to relationship, because we know how complicated it is, how challenging, and it really does humble us to share with you what we've learned and how we took our relationship from being not just average, but being, I mean, in some ways it was always above average, but it was really pretty messy early on. But we'll get to that.
Okay, so welcome, and again, thank you for hanging in there with us and spending your hour of the evening, independent of what time zone you're in. We're really grateful and honored to have you here with us tonight. So if you have any questions as we're doing the presentation, feel free to put questions in the chat window. And at the end, we'll stay for some Q&A. We'll turn off the recording so that's not on the recording call. And instruct you how to jump into the Hangout at the end of the call. And so first of all, let's look at why you're here and why that's even important. Let's get into the flow of the webinar. So as Gabby said, we know that your life is full and we really, really value your time and trust. And we promise that in the next 45 minutes, however we can squeeze this in, we're gonna give you great information that's gonna make a difference, and you can apply it to any of those struggles you're facing in your relationship right now. We're also gonna give you some other juicy tips and tools throughout the webinar that you can use right away, and also set you up to build on what's next from what you learned here today. And these skills can be used proactively in advance of any conflict. That's ideal. Gabby and I actually have a monthly Sunless Summit where we actually go through what we call a relationship report card, and we use these communication tools. We actually just finished one before jumping on the call today. We didn't finish it yesterday.
Yeah, and actually on that note, every Sunday we're going to talk about this a bit more, but every Sunday Raj and I use this communication tool that we're going to be teaching you tonight. We take turns and we go back and forth so that each person, not back and forth in one day, but a week apart. So you can use these tools instantly, ongoingly. They can be done in 15 minutes. Does not have to be a whole big drama when you want to get your communication delivered, or when you want to be heard, or when you want to hear and understand what's going on with your beloved. The point is, though, that you get to choose. You're here today, so you're already making a choice. And the choice is either you're going to reap the rewards or pay the price. Do you want to have, be a crappy communicator, or do you want to be a quality communicator? And when I talk about crappy communication, I mean, that you're out of control. Maybe you've been facing a conflict and things have just escalated really quickly, and you've wanted to be able to calm yourself down in the moment, or calm your partner down. We're going to teach you a really great tool for doing that. Maybe it's that you're not really clear on what's going on and you want to uncover what's been hidden. Maybe the dynamic between you has been stagnant. You might even be getting to more of a cynical, resigned place about what's even possible. And you may want to focus on changing a behavior, but perhaps you're feeling this. We see this all the time where someone in the relationship, or both people in the relationship is even more common, but you're feeling just dismissed, that you're not really truly being seen and heard, and communication's often a ping pong of problems and dissecting dramas and blaming and complaining and not really communicating. So if you want to be a quality communicator, then we're looking at being calm, uncovering what's hidden, having things change and evolve between the two of you, and that you feel truly seen and heard. You can look at this cartoon here where it says, you know, you never think about me. You always do just what you want to do, you inconsiderate jerk.
That's not too far off from how we normally communicate, right?
Right, that's very common, very natural in the default. And then, you know, he says, whoops, I wish I hadn't have said that. So we want to help you avoid this experience of, you know, the reaction and get more into the choice. And the way to do that is your habits, because your relationship happiness is going to be absolutely determined by your relationship habits. You know, the reality is that communication is tough. It is complex. I mean, it's hard enough to figure out what we think and feel, let alone put in that dynamic between two people, especially when there's all sorts of stresses in our lives. So it's not your fault that it's complicated and challenging, but it actually is your responsibility. You have the ability to respond, but you're here tonight, so bravo for that. And I just want to point out that while it's awesome if your partner wants to jump in and do this workshop with you, you know, in most relationships, it's one person who's more enthusiastic about it than the other. So if that's you in your relationship and you're here solo, it's totally fine. You absolutely can do this on your own, and you don't even have to worry if your partner, you know, maybe they're just not as into improving relationship or working on communication skills, but you yourself can change the cues that will make a difference in your relationship and hopefully inspire your beloved to create more partnership here. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to cover tonight. Raj, or you want to dive in?
Let's go back and forth. Okay. So the thing that we're going to cover tonight is these 3 awesome communication tools that we've actually combined. And we're going to do this quickly, as we said before. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot of content. So you might want to take some notes, or again, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat window. And the first topic that we're going to talk about today is how do you send a communication, and how do you actually what we call clear yourself. And we call this how to turn a fight off, almost like a light switch.
Yeah, and when Raj is talking about, you know, how do we clear, we don't mean like emotional vomit. I mean, yeah. How do you actually get really clear? What is it that I want to say? We're going to talk about the process for doing that tonight. How can you send a clear communication and really turn off a fight almost like it was a light switch? Okay, so we know that arguments are really easy to get into, super sticky and challenging to get out of, a little bit like a couple flypaper. Just thought of that one, honey. We should do a little graphic or image for that, right? You fly into the sticky paper and you can't get out. It really isn't easy, yet this tool, this 3-part process we're talking about tonight, and this little bonus tip we're gonna have for you, it's really gonna make it much more simpler for you. We want you to just stop the argument, you know, right as it's starting, and save your energy for better things, because it's really, really fun to see when a couple, when you take all of that energy that gets spent on fights, I should say wasted on fights, and you replace it with this communication practice, it's really pretty powerful what happens and how quickly it happens. It's amazing, you know, what adds kerosene to an argument and what can diffuse it. And speaking of that kerosene, we're going to point out tonight some of the pitfalls and the traps that might pop up along the way. We have one course that talks about the 27 different forms of self-sabotage in a relationship, so we'll be looking at that as well. And of course, we're going to focus on giving you some actual solutions that you can apply today. All right, and the second step of the process for communication is we're going to cover receiving a communication, which is really all about giving your beloved the gift of them getting complete. Like there's nothing else to say. They don't have to fight to be heard. You have reflected back and you have heard what they had to say. So it's that sense of being complete. You're receiving, it's a gift, it's with intention. You know, because half the battle in an argument is each person wants to feel seen and heard, and there's usually competition for that. It turns into a power struggle. But once you really truly hear each other, often the result can take care of itself, which is why in our communication model, we have separated making a request. A lot of people, you know, will kind of burst out some emotional vomit and, you know, I want you to, why do you do that? You know, and you know, someone on the call, I know that, you know, their beloved would say, you know, why don't you lock the door? Well, this is really about how to hear each other and separate making the request from just being heard. The behavior is going to come. There's a whole separate process for that, but really slowing this down to give your beloved the opportunity to really, really feel heard. And then inside this cool little tool, you're going to find some juicy ways that you can actually take the problem. So really bring a personal complaint tonight. What's something that's just been irking you or bothering you? And you can turn it into a pathway forward. We want you to have not just one, but like a variety of awesome options that you can turn to if you start to feel backed into a communication corner. I mean, we've all been there. Raj, his line when he feels backed into a corner. What do you say, Raj?
The thing that I want to say probably shouldn't be said.
Oh, I meant the one about you always say about your. I feel like my head's gonna explode. Yeah, so you say it in unison.
Back off.
I feel like my head is gonna explode.
Yeah.
So when it feels like there's no way out but to lash out, or like your head's gonna explode, we want you to have this tool at your side because it works so well that if it's not working, you're likely actually not doing it right. You want to go back to the instructions. So we're also tonight, and the third, you want to do this one?
Yeah, so the third step of this communication process is how do you actually make those requests and make the request in a way that your partner's eager to meet it. As Gabby mentioned, just launching into emotional vomit that most people label as communication, it doesn't get you anywhere, and it makes things worse. So
much worse.
We're actually going to show you how to move through this whole process, doing the sending, the receiving, and then this play / creating of how you want it to be. And that is, we even used this tool yesterday on a big topic around my birthday date, and it totally saved us.
Yeah, I actually wrote a whole post about this. I don't know if you've seen it yet today, honey, but yeah, he's turning 50, and we've been going back and forth about the date, and I was firm that we would not change it. He knew he wanted to change the date. It's like, how do I communicate with Gabby about something I know is going to piss her off if I even bring it up?
And I held it for an entire 48 hours before I said anything, and I waited to the exact right moment. As you'll see, an appointment is super important.
Timing is everything, as they say. So we'll get to
we
those
shifted
details.
The date.
We absolutely did. It was shocked me.
That was not going to happen.
You'd used the process. You held on to the handle rails, the bumper rails, so we didn't have any gutter balls, right? So well done. So we want you to have that same experience. So let's go ahead and get to it. I do want to just remind you, and we mentioned just a moment ago, that if you do stick around to the end of the presentation, we've got a special gift for you. It's our ebook with 60+ pages with dozens of our tips for how to keep the fights clean, watch those arguments, and how to keep the sex dirty and keep things passionate. We call this the 5 solutions that really satisfy. So we have, as we said, dozens of tips, tools, and techniques so you can avoid an argument well in advance of it even starting. You can stop an argument once you're in it, and even for what to do after an argument, once the battle has passed, you don't want to just move on, you want to move forward. Some healing needs to begin. There's also a whole bunch of tips for keeping the sex dirty, right? We want the sexy time to be sexy, and that it's just getting better and better over time, not like, that cliche where it starts as the hot coal and just kind of peters out until it's cold ash and blows away into nothingness. No, that is not the cliche for you. We want to turn that around and have things getting better and better and better. So we've got tips for seduction, even before the seduction begins, then the actual seduction, how do you take it to new limits during sexy time? And then how can you maximize even that post-sex pause time as well?
You're going to love this ebook. It's a quick and easy read, and you're going to be able to soak in dozens of tips, tools, and techniques, both in the fights clean and sex dirty arenas. And what's really great is it's laid out so you can quickly scan and find exactly what you want that's going to be most applicable to you when you need it. And we're going to actually email you a link to the book after the webinar or by tomorrow morning at the latest. So look for that in your email.
Yeah, our assistant is in the Philippines, and they're in a typhoon right now. So it depends when the weather clears, we will send that ebook out to you tonight. So we've talked about your time being valuable. We know it's valuable. So we had a whole list of a dozen different testimonials. We're only going to give you 2 tonight. Feel free to go to our website and look at those. But here you see Scott and Sasha from Toronto said, Gabby and Raj bring humor to resolving relationship conflicts. It takes the significance out of challenging solutions, which I found to be very successful at quickly dissolving the conflict. The way they bring fun and games to their relationship work offers a brand new perspective for relating that's full of love. If you notice, this is a really fun, playful couple. If you look at the picture, she's actually wearing fairy wings. That's their wedding photo. Just love those two. Now, we want you to really get that this workshop's going to give you some specific solutions. And we know that you want to start fighting less in your relationship, and we know you're ready for a new level of communication. We were certainly ready for a new level of communication. I mean, I've mentioned already that early on in our relationship, it was so dark, it was so challenging that at our engagement party, one of our good friends pulled us aside and said, we thought he was going to give us a present. And instead he said, you know what, I don't think you guys should get married. And we were embarrassed. It was kind of a slap in the face to wake up. We really had to struggle to get to where we are today. It was not easy, and people did notice how messy it was. But we did figure some things out. I mean, it was kind of a wake-up call when he said that to us. But this photo gives you just a glimpse of what it looked like or what it felt like in our relationship. And actually, Raj, this picture is probably nicer than what it looked like.
No holes in the wall.
No holes in the wall, yeah. I mean, we had plenty of blaming, shaming, complaining, power struggles galore. He was more introverted, I was more extroverted. We had all sorts of different dramas. I loved socializing and house guests. He wasn't as into it, so much more so now. But we really had some things to work out. I mean, it was just really tough. I won't go into any more how tough it was. But let's just say we were more like that couple, like don't invite that couple, as opposed to the it couple, where now people say, like, what is it about those two? And I want what they have. To which we say, look, it did not come out of the box like this. We really did we got intentional about it. When we were told, hey, I don't think you should get married, we could have just fallen into the trap. We could have gotten resigned and said, this just isn't going to work. I mean, gosh, even our friends and family are suggesting we don't get married. But we didn't do that. It was sad. It was depressing. It was painful. It was scary. It was humiliating, but we knew that we had something special, as you probably know about your relationship. And we knew that if we got some basic communication skills handled and we took some responsibility for being the one to turn it around, then we could give up this struggle and really turn that upset into an intimacy that brings us together rather than pulling us apart.
Okay, before we dive into the content tonight, we want to preface by talking about relationship success milestones for a minute. So this is important because it puts into context what you're learning and why you want to learn it. Success milestones are indicators that will let you know that you've arrived where you want to go. Often we don't think about where we want to get, we just complain about what we don't have. And is look at what would mean a total success in terms of communicating with your partner.
Yeah, just swing out here, dream big. What would that look like? And you might also go ahead and envision a baby step, but really personalize it right now. What would that look like?
Great, and you can note some things in the chat if you want to, or just write them down on a pad. So what would success look like? So you can think about, if I got X stopped and we started Y, what would that look like? What would have you know that you've made it in terms of how you want your relationship communication to be? So for us, for Gabby and I, one measure of success was that our fights were rare. Yeah. We actually had a goal last year of 2 or fewer for the entire year. And that means
we'd say 2 or fewer, 2 or fewer. That's not, we'd avoid an argument. We'd feel one brewing, yeah. Like, whoa, this is getting into argument like territory.
Those, accident meters that they have in offices. You don't want to like break the.
It's been how many days since our last argument?
And so those arguments meant with tears and yelling and screaming. So like the biggies, right?
Yeah.
And success also meant that we didn't call each other names. We didn't swear at each other. We avoided low blows at all costs. Success also meant that we get past arguments fast. We refused to let it linger. And it also meant that we had a happy amount of sexy time and that we were in communication with regards to how we wanted that to be.
So let me ask you right now, when I look at this picture, this is what successful relationship looks like to me. I look soft and safe. I'm happy. He looks passionate. We're going to talk about playful, peaceful, passionate in just a moment. But just imagining for yourself, would it be a success if you were rarely fighting, if you could avoid the low blows, if you moved past your conflicts pretty quickly, realistically, if you had a sex life that was truly fulfilling? would that be a desirable milestone for you and your relationship? So even if that is a desirable milestone, but you instantly think, yeah, that's nice for them, but we can't have that, we want you to take heart. We're going to give you some specific strategies that you can move towards making this happen right away. We've got just a couple other milestones that we want you to take a look at first, though. So I mentioned P3, playful, peaceful, passionate, right? Raji changed the thank you. So this milestone, P3, you know, we call it the trifecta of an awesome relationship. If you've got a friend to play with, you've got that sense of play, a sanctuary to find peace with, where you feel safe and can be vulnerable, and a lover that you can find and create and maintain and keep passion going. Of course, in any long-term relationship, there's going to be some ups and downs across any of these areas, but that fundamentally, over time, these areas are getting stronger and stronger, more integrated, and supporting you in having a truly fulfilling relationship. So we say that's the trifecta of an awesome relationship, but what do you say? What would it look like for your relationship if it was playful, peaceful, and passionate? Now, another success milestone is specifically communication. Like, what would your communication be like? Do you want to just stop fighting all the time? Maybe you're not speaking to each other and you're kind of walking on eggshells and you're avoiding conversations. Maybe you're getting nasty and cranky with each other. You know, Raj and I, one of our taglines we like to say is save being nasty for your sex life, because most couples are willing to put up with being nasty about, you know, who didn't take out the trash or pick up the kids or who's doing more than the other, but they're either ignore each other or they let it go vanilla, predictable, and boring when it comes to their sex life. So we wanted, this picture here is to remind you about being an animal in the bedroom, not a monster when it comes to fights. Because we took this picture one day after we had been in a big argument. I think this was our last big argument a couple of years ago. And we went for a walk afterwards. We said, okay, what do we want to do to reconnect? We went for a walk down our State Street, our main downtown, and we saw these hats and said, okay, let's buy these hats. So next time we turn into animals, we turn into monsters in an argument, we can go ahead and bring some levity and lightness to it. And these hats have actually pulled us out of an argument, I don't know, in 2 years, you'd say what, a couple dozen times? At least, yeah, they're great. They're great. But what if you could turn your complaints, if you could stop being a monster and you could turn it into a request, and your partner was actually eager to meet that request? You know, right now, it may not seem that way, but again, just reminding you, it didn't come out of the box this way. We got our relationship to work, work really well, to thrive, and it was a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be so hard for you.
So we can all agree that these would be great relationship success milestones. You know, whatever the flavor is for you, there's something in this area of communicating and fighting fair and having the sex be dirty, right? And so we can all agree that we would love to have some of these things in our relationship. Yet who has the time to do all of the reading, the workshops, and what it takes to become a world-class communicator? Not probably any of us, right? And
we argue about taking the trash out, so who thinks we have time to read all these books, right?
Totally. So don't worry. Gabby and I have done the heavy lifting for you. We've done the workshops, we've done reading, we've gone to therapy, and then some, and we've done our homework. We're super intentional about our relationship. Gabby even went and got a master's degree in education, counseling and guidance, and I have a minor in educational psychology as well. So after almost 11 years together, we've been married 9 years come March 1st. We've dug ourselves out of and supported many other couples out of some really dark spaces, like really dark spaces, right? They're close to having it be over, or they've just been suffering for like a month. And now Gabby and I are more playful, peaceful, and passionate, that P3 relationship, than ever. And it took a lot of work to get here, yet we've taken that path and figured out how to make it simple and easy. Not necessarily easy.
Simple. It's not always easy, but the more you use the habit, yes, the easier it gets. It doesn't have to be so hard. It really can be simpler than you think. And your relationship, it can be better than you imagine is even possible right now. You don't need to read those books. All you need is, we're going to give you this, rapid download today. You don't have to figure it out on your own, and you don't even need any special talents for this. Now, some of these skills have been tested and proven over the years. Some are cutting edge. It might even feel like some insider information. We hope to give you the inside scoop on communication, but at any rate, they can make a huge difference. So let's get to these communication tools. Oh, we have one more piece before diving into that tool there. Just on why should you be listening to us?
So one of the reasons why is that we're going to make it more fun, easier, and it just gives you the way to actually communicate in a way that kills conflict and creates connection. But again, why us? So first of all, we make resolving conflict and restoring intimacy fun. Things are way easier when you add some fun into them. You've probably noticed that, right?
Yeah, if you can help a couple lighten up about what's been so heavy, it's just such a fantastic feeling. But this webinar isn't about why you should listen to us. It's about why you should always be working on your communication skills. So let's just look at before we get to the solutions, which we're going to get to right now in this next slide. First, we're going to look at the problem. So the problem shows up when your needs or your wants are not met. And we're going to talk about the 7 human needs in just a moment. But when they're not met, then you resort this default of, very unskilled communication to get what you want. And it's often unconscious, and it leads to drama. And this might show up as making your partner wrong, blaming them, criticizing them. You might yell at them. It might be the silent treatment or withholding, stonewalling. John Gottman, the relationship researcher, calls that one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You want to make sure if you're doing that, just realize that's a huge red flag, and you'll want to mitigate that and heal that and find new habits for your relationship as soon as possible. And of course, finally, complain, complain, complain. It's probably the most common dynamic in any relationship, even the best of them. And we're going to give you some tips on how to avoid complaining, and not just avoid the complaint, but actually use the complaint to bring some creativity and bring you together and create more intimacy rather than pulling you apart.
Yeah, and don't make yourself wrong as if this is sort of your common modality for communicating, because we never learned any better. We never learned that in school. Like, we don't go to relationship school. So give yourself a break and listen and take notes, because this is not going to knock your socks off.
Okay, so the solution, we highlighted this just briefly earlier, but just to reiterate, because the brain learns from the general to specific, these are the 3 tips we're about to go through one by one in a bit of rapid fire. So, of course, you can dive into the 3-week course and get these in more detail and personalized. We'll have some Q&A coaching at the end, so you can actually get thousands of dollars worth of coaching for free, just included in the course.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more tonight at the end.
So getting clear in your communication. Get intentional so that you can get heard. Then you're going to want to receive and complete. Feel complete about a communication. Feel completely seen and heard. Nothing is left out. And you're going to give your beloved the gift of truly getting them. And then finally, play or create, and this is playing the request game, what we call get on Go Street. And we'll tell you what Go Street means in just a moment. So let's not delay. Let's dive right on in with sending or clearing and getting intentional so that you get heard.
Okay, so this is an awesome tool, and we took a combination of a variety of tools, including nonviolent communication, which you may be familiar with, Marshall Rosenberg's work. And I'm going to show all the different steps of how you send effectively and get heard.
Yes.
And we have a mnemonic tool here, which takes the first letter of each of these steps and creates a sentence to help you remember the tool.
So as Raj said, this was based on several different communication tools and our own experience in working with other couples and individuals. However, we do want to give big praise and props to one of our favorite communication tools. Raj mentioned nonviolent communication, also known as compassionate communication. Now, this practice is a 4-step practice, and when we do our 3-week course, we will actually go into how they do their practice so that you can find which are the tools that actually resonate the most with you. This is what we have found as being the best of the best in terms of the combination, but it's still a fantastic tool as well. It's essentially based on, authentic sharing with empathetic listening. So you're being responsible and vulnerable about what's true for you, and really having some self-awareness about your own emotions. And then also you're listening to your beloved with true empathy and compassion for whatever their experience is, even if you don't agree with it, even if it's totally different than how you're experiencing it. You might even think they're just flat out crazy. But you still are showing empathy because you care care because it's their experience.
Yeah, and what a human mostly needs is to be listened to and gotten.
On the note of needs, we're about to just show you on the next slide. You can go ahead and shift to that slide, Raj. We'll come back to this one in just a moment. Is if your needs are being met, we have 7 core human needs. And if your needs are being met, you experience positive emotions. And if your needs are not being met, you experience negative emotions. So it can be a huge game changer to actually have even a printout of what are all of the needs and feelings that we go through as human beings, so that when you're challenged, Raj and I leave this on our refrigerator, and when we're challenged, we can go ahead and pull up that sheet and say, oh, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling this because I need that. And it's a really powerful process. Will you show the next slide, Raj?
Yeah, so here is the full inventory of feelings and needs words. That previous slide was just listing the top level categories of needs: connection, physical well-being, etc.
Now, one thing I want to point out about this is it may be too small to see what the actual words are, but on the right-hand side of the needs inventory, there's 6 needs there: connection, physical well-being, honesty, play, peace, meaning, and autonomy. But if you notice all of the words that describe connection, there's more words for that than for all of the other words combined. So you really, if you want to have a happy and fulfilled relationship, you want to look at how connected are you feeling. Raj and I even went through these 7 core human needs and scored ourselves in our relationship, saying, how do we feel that we're doing in these? Do we have these needs met? So that you can kind of proactively think, oh, we've got a low need in that area. That's going to ultimately lead to some negative feelings if we don't address it. So just a few tidbits on nonviolent communication, the 7 core human needs, and the feelings inventory. We even have a few memory devices and mnemonics for this tool and for these emotions, so that you can have access to them if you're not in front of your refrigerator and you can't pull the sheet off your list. But let's go back to our slide, Raj. You can go to the next one. I put it in there twice. But I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of background on nonviolent communication because it's such an awesome tool.
Okay, and you'll see that the feelings and needs are actually 2 of the steps in this tool.
In the nonviolent communication tool.
And in this summary tool here, feelings Correct. And needs. So you'll actually refer to those lists when you're trying to articulate what your feelings and needs are. So let's go through each step here. So the first step is intention. And you want to have an intention before you go into a conversation. That intention could be that we both feel like we've won, we both feel like we've heard. I totally used this in our conversation about my birthday, and it totally worked. If you're not clear on what your intention is, you're going to be sloppy, and you're probably not going to end up having a good experience.
Would it be accurate to say your intention was that you wanted to, 1, change the date of your birthday party, and 2, not ruin our Sunday and get into a fight?
No, well, yes. My intention was that the tool actually works and that we have a great experience and we both feel hurt. I actually wasn't like attached. I wanted it to be on the new date, but it wasn't like I was going to lose it if I didn't get it.
So the intention was just that we use the tool.
That we use the tool and that we achieve a good result.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah. Great. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, there was one topic, T here, in the memory tool, Art of Win. T stands for topic, 1 topic at a time. We didn't go from his birthday to me saying, you always want to change the date of plans and you're always postponing things. I can't stand this procrastination. That would not have gone well. Okay, so you want to stick to 1 topic, 1 issue when you're having a challenge.
Okay, now the third point here is to make an appointment. Often when we have a need that is not met and a feeling comes up because of it, we feel this urge to talk about it immediately. It might not be a good time for your partner to actually have a conversation about it. They may be tired, they may be already irritable, so you want to make an appointment to have one of these conversations and create 15 to 30 minutes to actually do it.
Now, on one note, Raj, you said, the 3rd step here. On the point of these being steps, all of these communication tools, it's great when you know their flow, but I have found that if you just bring in any one of these, this is why we create memory tools, so you can remember what the steps are. It doesn't even need to be going in order. You just want to jump in and explore any one of these. If all you remember is feelings, then just focus on your feelings because that's inarguable. So while these are in order for this mnemonic and an order of a flow, don't hesitate to just use these as much as possible and just keep improving so that you get better and better about actually reinforcing what's working, which is the next step.
Okay, so reinforce, you want to a little bit before you start with a potentially challenging topic. You want to acknowledge the person, ideally in the area that you're going to talk about how they've been great about this or that. You know, I told Gabby that she's so great to be actually working with me about my birthday party and how she honors like these big 5 and 0 birthdays, and I acknowledged her a lot authentically. I wasn't making things up.
You weren't just trying to butter me up before you lowered the blow. You were genuinely finding things that you sincerely.
All true, and I knew it would help.
You knew it would help. Okay,
It's part of
good.
the process.
Absolutely. All right, the next piece here is your tone of voice. Now, they say between 90 to 97% of communication is nonverbal, so your tone is very important. Anyone with an animal knows this, and we're all animals and creatures. We have our little critter brains, our amygdala, our fight or flight response, some referred to as a crocodile, some referred to as a hyena, some referred to as, oh, what's the other one? The crocodile, oh, the chimp, the monkey, the chimp. But it's important that we pay attention to those tendencies in how we're communicating and making sure we're using a tone that's going to communicate care, compassion, connection.
Okay, now after you've done this reinforcement and you pay attention to your tone, you want to actually state the facts of what it is that is having you experience this emotion.
Just the facts, no judgment.
And don't use words like always or you never or those kinds of exclusionary words.
Never say never.
Because that's bound to trigger your partner, and it's probably actually not true.
Well, and as soon as you say never, there's an invitation to argue it. That's not true. I don't do that every time, which kind of brings us jumping down a little bit just into I statements, because those are inarguable, especially when you combine it with a feeling. You know, I feel sad. They can't say, no, you don't. It's an inarguable. But sorry, go back to observations.
Yeah, so in fact, with this birthday party, the observation was that we have had the date for the 9th to the 12th, and we also have a performance on the date of the 12th. That was just the facts of it. Okay, so then you go to the feelings. So the feelings that I was experiencing was a lot of anxiety, stress, just I wanted to actually have the Sunday of my birthday party, it's going to be a 3-day event, and not have to go down and do this performance and have to leave the party, my 50th birthday party, early. So I just stated some of the feelings words, and you can see that this next bullet point talks about words. So you want to choose the words that you use with some care. Again, you're going to be using the feelings list, and also avoid words like always and never. And what are some other words to avoid, Gabby?
Always, never, entirely, you know, any of the words that are at the extremes. You want to have them be more inclusive words, or like sometimes, you know, occasionally, you know, it's leaving room for things to be open. And it's other words. The other point of words is to match the words that they use. You know, if they say scared, don't say frightened. You know, it might seem like the same thing, but the more you're matching them, we're going to get to mirroring in a moment, the more that you're aligned and matching with them, the more comfortable it's going to be to communicate. And then to wrap it up here, the final piece is needs, and we've talked a lot about needs with the 7 core human needs. We have a mnemonic for that one, and we'll teach you how to remember what are those 7 core human needs, so that when either you're upset or your beloved is upset, you can identify what those needs are right away. It's a great, great way to unhook from an argument, is to really get compassionate about what's the need that is underneath. In this case, you have a need that you have already looked at in advance, right? Because you've looked at your intention, you've picked your topic, and you've prepared yourself to say, these were the facts, this is how I felt about those facts, and this is the need that I have.
In fact, I took just like 5 minutes before we started this conversation to check in with the lists, and my needs were needs for connection, physical well-being, and peace. Those are some of the core human needs.
Okay, so let's go ahead now and look at, oh, just a reminder, the memory tool here, the IT Art of Win. If you want to be a great communicator, this is all about sending and being clear. Go ahead and pull this out, you know, put it in, you know, print it and put it on your pocket. Take a screenshot of it and put that picture on your phone. So when you open your phone, you're going to see this. We're going to tell you one tool in just a moment, the soothing mantra, that when Raj first learned this tool, he put it on his phone and he'd practically drop his phone, fumbling so fast trying to pull his phone out when we were in an argument. It was that good of a tool. Okay, let's go to step 2.
Yes. Is all about receiving.
Yes, and receiving is also all about getting complete. You want to give your beloved the gift of truly getting them. right? So I mentioned mirroring just a moment ago. This is the step, and the memory tool you can see here as well, thanks for pulling that up, Raj, is make sure communication creates victory every time. It may be hard to remember, you know, what are those 6 steps of receiving communication? Well, put this sentence up on your refrigerator. Put it on your phone, as I mentioned. Make sure communication creates victory every time. So that's the M stands for mirror. That means you want to match their pace of talk, match their body language. Now, not, you know, you're not like a mime and you're not mirroring them exactly, but just be reflecting and be aware and present to how they're experiencing things and how you might match them. You know, if they're sitting a certain way, if they're talking fast versus talking slow. Then the second part here is you want to summarize. Now you want to be brief. When you have you've heard what they've had to say, hopefully they've been brief as well, so that you can summarize it back using their words. As we mentioned in sending communication, it's also important in receiving communication, and briefly give that back to them.
Yeah, when Gabby recreated or gave back to me what I said about when I was sending, it was just really, it allowed me to just feel great. I was like, wow, she actually heard me and we're not in an argument.
Yeah, and that's what these next 2 steps are, the confirm and complete. So when a communication has been given, you want to confirm, did I get it right? You know, because they might be like, no, that's not what I said at all. So you want to give it back to them and then ask them, did I get it? And then take it a step further. After they say, yes, that's what I said, then you go a step further and say, is there anything else?
This is like Kashmir.
It's like Kashmir. It's so good. When people get to say everything, you're like, yes, actually, there is one other thing. And, you know, I didn't like it about this. Now, they don't want to be, you know, emotionally vomiting on you here. Of course, they're going to be using the powerful tool in the sending communication. But even if they're not, it's your job here to give them the experience of being complete, even if they get cranky with you. Raj and I even came up with a little fun dance and song to make it memorable and a little bit playful. Did I get it? Is there more? Did I get it? Is there more? Did I get it? Is there more? So there we were at our Sunday brunch breakfast, and I was doing my little shoulder roll for, did I get it? Is there more? When really, I just have to say, the moment after Raj sent the communication, it was my turn to receive. I was pissed. I didn't want to use the tool. I wanted to say, no, damn it, we're not changing your birthday party date.
There was a moment where she was going to go that direction. So go ahead.
Hold on to the handle rails. If you use the tools, they work. If they use the tools, they work. This is one of those games. The only way to lose the game is to not play. So play the game, pull out this memory device, pull out this tool, have it written down, slide it into your wallet, put it on your phone. Now, after you've given them the gift of you've gotten them complete, they've said, yes, you told it, you've given it back to me, that's what I said, no, there isn't anything else, you've got the complete picture, then you want to validate them. This is where things most often go south. Most people in relationship, they invalidate their beloved's experience because they don't realize that, you know, if you know your personality types, that can really be so helpful. I mentioned before that I'm an extreme extrovert, and Raj, you know, he loves socializing, but he really, really needs his alone time, or it's going to lead to an argument with us. And we used to kind of, you know, minimize the importance of my need of social time or his need of quiet time in the past, or get dismissed when someone was super anxious or upset about it. This part is really important, that you say, you know, I may not have seen it that way. I may not have felt that way. I may not have acted that way or interpreted it that way, but I get your experience. I understand. And then you follow that up with saying, and I empathize. That must have been really painful for you. And this is the part where the love and the compassion comes in. The validate is the hardest part. Sometimes just for somebody to say, I get how you could see it that way. It's so short. I get how you might see it that way. 9 words.
And just stop, because often we say that and then we'll say, but
I can't believe you would. So don't do that. Okay, so make sure communication creates victory every time.
All right. Beautiful.
Now, we want to slip in, before we get to the third piece of this communication tool, the creating a game for getting the results you want, we want to slip in here the soothing mantra. We have mentioned earlier that we have lots of tips that we'll be sharing in the 3-week course, like nip nagging in the bud, the drama-free diet, stop, shift, start, and a lot of things that can end arguments, heal from arguments, and things of that nature. This is one of those.
Okay, so mantra we learned from 2 of our good friends and fantastic relationship coaches, Evan Pagan and Annie Lala. And they introduced us to this concept called the soothing mantra. And this tip is all about finding what's going to calm that crocodile once it's been poked. And you've probably experienced that with your partner, where like nothing actually works and all there is to do is kind of like bury your head under a pillow.
Sometimes even when you come to the place, like, I'm sorry, and you're like, yeah, you should be.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, so sometimes in an argument, it's just too intense to focus on what the issue is at hand, and you just need to actually calm things down a bit so you can actually then potentially use the tool that we're teaching you here. And if you can do that, if you can have your partner feel more calm and connected and collected and connected, then you've moved things forward tremendously. You know, often these upsets, they can last for like an entire week, and all the person needs is to be just calm down and feel that connection. So to have the greatest chance of success at actually calming down your partner when you're in these, you know, really triggered upsets is this soothing mantra. You got to do a little bit of research to actually make this happen.
Yeah, so when you're not in an argument, you want to ask your partner, you know, what would you most like to see, hear, feel, experience? You know, how do you want to be treated when you're upset, when you're triggered? You know, what would be your dream scenario? You're like, why couldn't they just say this? Why couldn't they do this? Well, if you, before an argument, tell your beloved, hey, when I'm upset, this is the best thing to do with me. It's really, really a powerful tool. For Raj and I, this picture represents what our tool is. You know, in this picture, we're at Burning Man at this crazy festival, and we were dancing with a couple thousand people, but tightly with about 40 of our friends, our close friends from our camp. And the music was crazy, and the dust was in the air, and it was a whole cloud. And then all of a sudden the music changed and slowed down, and Raj came over to me, and we weren't fighting or anything. And he put his hands behind my back and his forehead to my forehead, and he said, I've got you. And my knees buckled like a rag doll. I burst into tears, and somehow our friend Dana was standing right there and snapped a picture of that moment. And so when Raj asked me, when you're upset, what do you want to hear? I knew that what I wanted to hear was, I've got you. It's going to be okay. I know this is difficult, but I've got you. So it's really
physical.
Yes, and the physical part. So it's, you know, what he says, what he does is he puts his hands behind my back, puts his forehead to mine, he looks in my eyes, and he says, this is a dark moment, but it is only a moment, and we will get through it together. Now, what every person wants to hear is going to be different. So find out for yourself what it is. Ask your beloved if they're willing to do that when you're upset next time. This is like, you know, get out of jail, get out of the I'm pissed at you free card, right? If you do these things, there's a really good chance I will stop being so upset. Now, you may be inviting, but please don't force it. You can only change your own behavior and invite someone to play with you. Never, ever, ever press or force it. They have to have a sense of autonomy, of leaning in, which is why I say you can absolutely take on these communication tools on your own. So be inviting, but don't force it.
Okay, so that's our special tip for the night. And again, in our 3-week course, we're going to have a handful of these. So let's move on to the third step of this communication model, playing the request game. So I'm going to bring up the different parts of this tool and the memory tool.
Get on Go Street.
So this time-tested tool of turning complaints into requests is something that your partner is going to be eager to meet when you make requests in this way. And this tool is a modified version of Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt's behavior change request. You might be familiar with them in that tool. Yeah,
Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt are two of our favorite relationship researchers. They wrote a fantastic book called Getting the Love You Want. Our first tool has a few elements from them as well, from their tool called the Imago Dialogue, which will also teach you in the 3-week course. And that is one that just blows me away. It's amazing how just getting someone's experience can just transform things. So just want to give big props to Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt about that.
So often when we are in conflict with a partner, there's a behavior change that we want, and fast.
Stop it! Stop it now!
That never works, okay? You've probably had an experience of that. Normally what we'll do is we'll launch into emotional vomit, and that most people label as communication, and you're not going to get anywhere near what you want from your relationship going that direction. It's actually going to make things worse. And so this model,
that's just the kerosene on the on the situation.
This model is like your best bet of actually having it go the way that you want. That's what I kept embracing around my birthday change. I'm like, okay, if I launch into this, just like when Gabby's waking up, it's not going to go well.
But keep in mind that while I did say you can go ahead and play around with these different pieces of the puzzle and use them interchangeably, it does work best if you follow through in the complete flow. So if you are going to make a request, first go through the steps of sending the communication and making it clear about what the concern is. If you can, have your beloved play the game of receiving you, making sure you feel really heard, and then jump in and play this request game. But again, even if your beloved isn't playing the game with you, you can generate this on your own and hopefully inspire them to jump in. Okay, so get on Go Street. So Go, G stands for game. Make it an inspiring game. And this came about, that our work here is called Relationship Fun and Games. And we really do believe if you put in a little intention, attention, and action spread out over time, it can take it out of the work category and really put it into the play category. So we want you to have fun. The company's called Relationship Fun and Games, but this specific idea for making a game here came when Raj and I were on vacation last December, not this year, but before. And we were
at a beautiful resort in Costa Rica.
Yeah, beautiful, wonderful time, gorgeous weather. And I was in the shower and came out of the shower, and Raj said, I've got something I kind of want to complain about, but I don't want to ruin our day. So can you give me some coaching on how to tell you this? And I thought, wow, okay, that is so mature of him that he is cranky, but instead of just emotionally vomiting on me, he's going to make sure that he gives me this communication in the greatest way possible so that it has the impact that he wants, not just gets it off his chest. So I said to him, okay, say it like this. Like when you were a kid and you say, I know, let's play a game. You came up with this idea and you were just like, yeah, I'm going to get them excited about what we're going to do. It just came naturally. So I said to Raj, tell me, I know, let's make it a game, and then tell me how you want it to be instead of complaining. In this case, it happens to be that I have really long hair, and before I take a shower, I take the rubber band out of my hair, put it on the counter, and it looks like a crazy spider or insect or something with all this hair coming out. It is kind of gross. I don't know why hair is so beautiful to touch on your head, but as soon as it comes off your head in a rubber band, it's disgusting. But that is the case. And so he said, I know, let's play a game that when you get in the shower and take your rubber bands off, that you put them in the drawer rather than on the counter. Wouldn't that be fun?
And she was totally enrolled. And
I laughed and said, yes.
Yeah, and then she put her hair thing in the drawer.
So we got the result he wanted. We had the vacation experience that we wanted.
And we had a great night.
And we had a great night. So that's about making a game. Bring an inspiring spirit. Like, hey, I know, this is what would make it better. You're holding, Raj and I, we have a formula for a wildly successful relationship. And that is if you hold all is well, we're great, we're solid, I'm okay, you are okay, and simultaneously hold even better if. Okay, that was a 7.5. How can we make it an 8.5? Oh, really holding even better if. So part of this even better if is playing the request game. So start with making it an inspiring game.
Okay, the second point is give the receiver, the person who's listening to you, 3 options, and also allow them to give you a counter option or invitation. If you give them some options, they can actually find something that they would actually like to do for you to help meet the needs.
Yeah, you're being creative here, right? This is play about creating. You're like, we could do this, this, or this. Do any of those sound like realistic options for you or something you could get excited about committing to? Would you be my partner in that? And then you might say, and if those 3 options don't work for you, what do you think might work so that we could have this need? Of course, you've already gotten clear about what your need is, and so you can communicate that in a way with this game, this request game, that they have options, and then they're invited to get creative and counter. Okay, the third piece here, the S for Go Street, is to start small and go slow. Raj was talking about his birthday, which was actually kind of a bigger issue for us because he knew I didn't want to change the date. But we've been working on this tool for what, 8-10 weeks now, something like that. And alternating, 1 week he delivers a communication and I'm the receiver. And we really practice not the tit for tat going back and forth. Well, you shared an issue you were upset about, so now I get to share an issue that I was upset about. out, but really resist the temptation of responding and just stay in your roles of the sender and the receiver, and then you play together in the game. So we had spent much weeks earlier with small issues like me saying, you know, how Raj was holding his attitude about a meeting we were having, you know, things that weren't like, you know, huge deal breakers or real big triggers. So as you're practicing these skills, start with something small and go slow. And then the last piece that I just was mentioning there was taking turns. Now, I say here, wait at least 24 hours in between, but if you can, wait longer. And, you know, Raj and I, in this case, rather than waiting till we're upset, we do this every Sunday. We only take 15 minutes to do it. You know, maybe on average 5 minutes to send the communication, 5 minutes to receive it, and 5 minutes to go back and forth in creating some possible solution. So it can be real easy, but you want to make it a habit. Again, your relationship happiness is going to be determined by your relationship habits.
Okay, so the memory tool, get on Go Street, okay? Game, options, small and slow, and take turns.
Yes. All right, so let's recap. So we looked at sending and getting clear, being really clear in delivering your communication, and how you can turn off a fight almost like a light switch.
With the mnemonic, It Art of Win.
Yes, I should put the mnemonic on that screen. That's a good idea, honey. And then receiving their communication and giving them the gift of feeling truly complete. You know, this is that blueprint that you can follow that will have you both feel so heard. You almost don't even need the third part of making the request. Plus, of course, we slipped in that bonus of the soothing mantra. And in the 3-week course, we'll help you create your own soothing mantra. And then
that mnemonic there was make sure communication creates victory every time.
Thank you. And then finally, in playing and creating, you know, this time-tested tool that you can turn complaints into requests that your partner is actually going to be eager to meet.
And what is that mnemonic? It is get on Go Street.
Get on Go Street. So hopefully this is priceless information that you can use today. I mean, really, if you could eliminate blaming, shaming, complaining, the drama-free diet goes into that even more in the magic ratio. But if you could, you know, fight less, have them be less extreme, not last, and really maintain that intimacy and connection, and not, you know, put up with crappy communication, that would be really helpful, right? I hope you're saying yes right now. And it's a lot of great information, but knowledge is power, but it's not enough. We all know, and you've heard me say it twice tonight, that it's your habits that what really matter. It's the follow through. And, you know, it's not easy with relationship habits. If it was easy, you wouldn't be here right now. You would have already had these skills handled. You'd be like, oh, we're excellent communicators. Don't need a refresher on that. When really, no matter how good a communicator you are, we all need a refresher course. But you're here right now. You know, maybe it's a little bit darker in your relationship. Maybe you're a bit at the end of your rope. Maybe it's not that bad, and it's just, you know, it's fine. You know, we often say to people, you know, fine is a slippery slope to effed up, right? You want to catch things when they're fine and really move them out of fine and into fabulous. And, you know, maybe you're frustrated. Maybe you don't have experience setting goals or working on your communication. Maybe you've tried, but it hasn't gone so well in the past. Maybe you've been really expecting it to be 50-50, which is a pitfall that we mentioned. Do not wait for 50-50. It has to be 100% zero. You give, you give. It's certainly, you don't want to be a doormat and lay down and be abused, but you can't be giving waiting till you're going to get it back in equal form. It just doesn't work that way. As John Gottman says, don't be afraid to be the one to love more and first. So hopefully it's okay if I show you this fast and simple way that you can make this happen for you so that you can be enjoying those milestones we talked about at the beginning, and the ones, of course, that you envisioned as well. Your own personal, playful, peaceful, passionate relationship success milestones. So we want to introduce to you, we've mentioned it a few times tonight, the 3 communication skills to kill conflict and create connection. This is our 3-week, we call this a mini course, because it's just boom, 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 3 weeks, 3 hours. The content is an hour each. The Q&A we stay on for, we say it's half an hour, but sometimes it's an hour or even longer, because we want to give you the coaching to help you through the challenges that you have with whatever's going on. Now, one of the main benefits of doing this course is that you get us live. This won't always be live. This might even be, we might do this live one more time, but it could be just after this it will be recorded. But you get on live, not just with us, but with a community of other couples and individuals who really do want to have a playful, peaceful, and passionate relationship and be able to communicate really well.
It's amazing what you can accomplish in your relationship when you're with a group of people that want to up-level their relationship. You don't feel alone. You feel like, oh, other people are experiencing this. So you really feel that sense of community.
Yeah, you feel that it's not just you, but it really is challenging. You'll hear that people are having a lot of the same challenges. In fact, sometimes you can just sit back and listen to someone else get the coaching and they do the work for you. That's really nice. But the reality is in life, it's so easy to get triggered. You probably have, your own regular repetitive upsets, which we like to name our arguments so we know that they're repetitive and happening again, not new. It's really just way too easy that you start settling for becoming like roommates, maybe getting a little numb, just slipping into that separation of that default. That to happen to you. Raj and I created this webinar tonight and this series because we really do care. We love love. We believe that a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship does not have to be so hard, and we want to make it easier for you. Now, as I was saying before, habits, they do take time. If you're going to break free of the bad habits, like blaming, shaming, complaining, criticizing, and then you want to break in the new habits, about being calm, being compassionate, using the send, receive, and play practices, that's going to take practice. It does get easier. We say it's simple but not easy, and if you're not used to doing this and you're used to name calling and going for the low blows, then yeah, this is going to take something. You're going to need some support. But it does get easier and easier the more you practice it. So we created this webinar so you'd have a chance to practice it, get coaching and be supported, and to get several tips as well so that you can lighten up when you want to tense up, and you can lean into love when instead you want to head for the hills, and you can communicate when you want to get cutthroat, right? I love my alliterations. So we want all of your arguments. We want to take them from being, all the time and being extreme and long lasting, and we want to help you make them rare. They're mild when they happen, and they're short, so that any of those breakdowns that you're having, they actually become breakthroughs. It's not a bad thing. It's a quick thing that has you come together. So we want to help you shift out of just the default of your relationship and into an intentional, into one more by design that has a map. Because if you don't have a map, who knows where you're going to end up? Well, you do know. You'll end up where you are now, right? You've probably already tried this on your own, but this is as simple and foolproof as possible. Again, as I said before, the only way to lose the game is to not play it. We have a system, and we have some successes here. Otherwise, you're going to have your moods, and your moods lead to messiness. So let's look at the 3 weeks here.
Okay, so in the first week, we're going to really dive into that sending and clearing. And we're going to really teach you how to turn off a fight like a light switch. Now, we did give you a lot of the information tonight, but we're going to add a lot to that. And we're also going to support you in actually developing the habit like Gabby mentioned.
We'll also bring in the drama-free diet, the nip-nagging in the bud, and some of those other tips, stop, shift, start, and all of those tools as well.
Tonight was just a taste.
Yes, just a taste, scratching the surface here. And then in the second week, diving deeper into receiving and completing. We had mentioned nonviolent communication that we had talked about. We had mentioned the Imago dialogue. We'll go into those tools, and plus we'll help you create your own soothing mantra. And then in the third week, we will focus on the playing and the creating. We will actually practice with some common scenarios. We'll teach you a few other communication models by other experts, and really review some of the pitfalls at that point. So all of those are valued at $197 each, for a total value of $591. But really ask yourself, if you could eliminate blaming, shaming, complaining in your relationship, what would that be worth to you? And it's not just, as we said, the course content, but we also finish every one of those with weekly group support calls. Now, these are not recorded. The content is, but the Q&A is not, because we want you to be able to speak freely and have a sense of privacy in asking whatever it is you want and not thinking it's going to be out there in the world and wherever you don't know where it's going to go. And also we want to encourage people to come live. It's fine if you can't make it and you can get the content, but if you do come live, it's just a very different experience. So those Q&A calls here are valued at $97 each, for a total of $291, but yeah, I find those priceless.
Completely transform people's relationships in these Q&A calls. It's amazing. People will start the course sitting on opposite ends of the couch.
We had one couple that they started one night in different rooms. We said, "Oh, are you traveling? Because you're on video." You don't have to be, but you can be on video. They said, "No, we're just fighting." And by the end of the evening, they were crawled into bed together, finishing the call together.
Okay, so here's what you get. You get the 3-week course, each session valued at $197. You also get the 3 Q&A calls following each of those sessions, those valued at $97 each for a total value of $882.
Now, we know that, that is a lot of money, and we want to make this a no-brainer. So we're going to sweeten the pot with some bonuses and give you a really awesome price as well. And remember, stay till the end. And even if you don't join us for the 3-week course, we'll give you our ebook on keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty. So on the note of keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty, the good and right, bad and wrong dance. This is a webinar here, and so super fun. This is one of our most popular tips. It can be done a little bit out of whack, so it's good to come to the webinar and find out how to do that. And we will send those out. We'll sprinkle that throughout the 3 weeks of the course. Of course, we want to also have a tip for keeping the sex dirty, and this is a tip, a practice, a game that we learned from Brian Franklin and Jennifer Russell, good friends of ours, and really the couple that got us into doing relationship coaching in the first place by inviting us to speak at a seminar at their wedding. And so this is the awesome impact of sexual archetypes game, really a great way of busting out of busting out of the predictable in your relationship and creating some spice by exploring these archetypes. And then finally, we have a third bonus, and this is for just the first 5 people that register tonight. And this is, again, on the Q&A, you'll get coaching from us, but it is in a group. For the first 5 that register, you'll get your 30 minutes personalized. We call this diamond mining, taking those lumps of coal and really turning them into a precious gem. So not just getting past or sweeping under the rug what's a difficult conversation, but really taking what's pulling you apart and use it to actually bring you together and bring more intimacy. So that's valued at $150. But imagine whatever that issue is that you have right now, what if that issue could get resolved? What would that be worth?
Okay, so here's what you get. You get the 3-week course valued at $591. You get the 3 Q&A support calls valued at $291. You get this awesome good and right, bad and wrong dance webinar at $197. You get your awesome archetypes video at $97. And for the first 5 people registering, you get a 30-minute one-on-one coaching call that we call the Diamond Mining Coaching Call for a total value of $1,326.
Okay, but the value, don't just listen to us and what the value we place on it. Listen to, this is Tobin and Jasmine from Boston. They've actually just moved to California now. Most relationship work is heavy, dramatic, and complaint focused. But with Gabby and Raj, it's refreshingly light, focused, and on what we really want. And Tobin and Jasmine, they have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and twice we have worked with them to, it's usually around the 18, 24 months of their kids when they're like, I don't think we could do this anymore. And instead, every time they've come back to being more in love and more physically attracted to each other than ever before. We just got to spend New Year's Eve with them, and it was a total delight. Her first time without her 2.5-year-old overnight ever. That was super great. Okay, so you can have it the way you want. We know right now you may see, hey, this communication sounds great, but oh my gosh, I get pissed, I get confronted, I get triggered. I don't know that I can have it this way. We know that it might seem that way because of what you've done, and if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting, right? You've tried the wait and see, or you've tried it on your own, and if you just keep doing that, and you do more of what you've been doing, you'll have more of what you have now. And if that was enough for you, if you were satisfied, then you wouldn't be here right now or watching this replay. Now, it might seem easier to do nothing. That's what we call, death of 1,000 paper cuts, right? It's the little argument over the trash or this or that, and it's just these cuts to your intimacy. Your intimacy in your relationship is just like the muscles in your body. You are never neutral in your body. You are either gaining muscle or losing muscle all the time. So you can have it this way, but you cannot be neutral, right? And it's worth it, and we're here to help. Now, could you do this another way? Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways. That's what kept us so humble about relationship, is there's many different paths, and it depends what resonates for you. So there's a lot of people out there, and if they resonate, great, meet with them. But there's a lot of different ways that, can just cost a lot of money, which is, therapy. We did a year of that and spent more than this year. Relationship coach, our coaching programs range between $1,500 and $8,000. So, that's quite expensive, right? Maybe a workshop and you're paying for travel. That's over a couple $1,000s. Or even this full cost of this course is over $1,000 here, which is expensive, but the highest cost is you breaking up, right? That cost would be entirely too high and not worth it, right, at all. So, you know, what we're saying is this, you know, it's not just your time and energy, or even the relationship itself, but you'll also save money too. Okay, so in fact, there actually is no comparison. You're not going to find this anywhere else. The dynamic, the content and copy, we're taking the best of the best research, pulling it together and adding to it and putting it in a fun and playful, memorable way that you can use immediately, and it will last as well. Now, the reason we want to give you this really great prize today is because when we got married, we literally spoke when we got married that we had a commitment to make a difference in the world, that's what our marriage was about. And so one way that we do that is supporting people like you and having a relationship that you love. You know, today I was talking to a friend, or I'm reading something that she had written about her experience of being around us. And I was a bit touched and a bit heartbroken that she was talking about how happy we were, how being around her, how painful that was. And we don't want you to have that feeling and see a relationship like ours and say, oh, that's not possible. We want you to know how dark and ugly it was in our relationship. The holes punched in the wall, all of the dramatic leaving of parties, being so humiliated, embarrassed at the argument that we got into. That's where we were. And you can have your communication improve dramatically. You can have the playful, peaceful, passionate relationship that you're looking for. So this package at this price today, to make it a no-brainer, a no deal, instead of being $1,326, instead it's only $197. And you can either go and register right now at this link that you see here, or if you go to the button on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a button that says register here. But we also know that even at $197, the money, the time, now we can't reimburse you with your time, but if you do come to the course and you don't get the experience that you want, if you don't feel that you've improved your communication, you don't feel that there's been an increase in how playful, peaceful, and passionate you are, then no questions asked, we'll give you your money back. You know, what you've heard here today really can be just the tip of the iceberg, and there really is no risk. So go ahead, and for only $197, you can go to relationshipfunandgames.com. The FCSD TV stands for Fights Clean Sex Dirty TV, 3-week mini course purchase, and get started right away. Because you don't have to throw in the towel. We really don't want you walking on eggshells and just biting your tongue. You don't have to live with the uncertainty of, you know, not knowing, like, where is my relationship today, or is it going to continue even? And we don't want you to have to try to figure this out all by yourself, or to have to pay through the nose. Raj and I, we want you to know tomorrow is another day. Today is a new day. You can have the relationship of your dreams. And this relationship you're in, it can take your breath away. You can feel more connected and peaceful all the time. You can eliminate the negativity, the blaming, shaming, complaining, and you can talk about difficult things without it turning into a huge blow up or threatening the whole relationship. So go ahead and let today be the wake-up call that's going to get under your skin and help you stop just weathering the storm and surviving and measuring your relationship based on how long you've been together, and start pursuing that play, peace, and passion, and measuring your relationship by how happy you are. In fact, Raj and I, we did our relationship report card tonight that we do once a month. And what did we get for our overall relationship?
9.2 out of 10.
9.2 out of 10. And that's looking at sex and fighting and all sorts of different areas. So we want you to have that same experience of what does a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship look like, feel like, taste like even. So actions speak louder than words. What is your choice? Go ahead and go to that link right now and join us in this other community of couples, single women even if you're in a relationship but your beloved isn't up for this, go ahead and jump on in on your own, because we're tired of people just suffering through their relationship. We know that you're ready to learn how to save being nasty for your sex life. So join us for this webinar. And don't forget about the guarantee, which the 100% money back guarantee completely takes all of your risk away.
So we so hope we see you in a course. We start on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And as Gabby mentioned earlier, the recordings will always be available, so you can watch them on your own time if you can't make those times, except for the Q&A portion of the calls, which are super juicy, so you don't want to miss those live sessions. So
let's go ahead and stop sharing the screen so you can see us again. Here we are. with people, the people behind the screen there. We just so appreciate love. Again, we had a really difficult time. We know so many couples. We've some friends just got married recently, and I tell them, instead of, oh, congratulations, I tell them, hey, those first 6 months to 2 years can be really tough, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, yes. So whether it's 6 months or 6 years or 26 years, we know that these hurdles do come up. There's lots of ups and downs in relationships, and we want you to have the happiest one you possibly can have, because we say all the time, you know, life is too tough to do alone, yet a crappy relationship is worse than none at all. But a wonderful one, it does take something, but it is so worth it, and you deserve it. It's just too juicy to give up on. So join us this Thursday, and we look forward to making a difference for you and your relationship.
If you want to stay on and ask us any questions, feel free to click the request to speak button in the upper right-hand corner. And you need to just click that before we end the broadcast, which we're going to do in about 10 seconds. And we hope to see you. And stay tuned also for that email. If you stayed on to the end here, you'll get your free download for the ebook. And that's a fantastic resource as well.
So thanks again for being here tonight. It means something fantastic about you, about your relationship. And if we can play any part in you getting to where you want to go, we'd be absolutely honored and delighted. Thanks so much. Have a great night. We'll send you the replay as well.
Have a fantastic evening, everybody.